really fascinating and interesting about you when we did our research is we saw that you did something that was not very common globally. Hella, in the Middle East, it was even less common. And you had a very financially secure and stable job in banking. And then I guess maybe you can take it from here. You woke up one morning and said, fuck it, I'm going to pursue the things that make me happy.
Yes, but the
Basically.
longer story, it was much more of a struggle and much more of a fear-based decision than fuck it, I can just leave. There was years of me benchmarking myself against my friends who are creatives. Every time I would travel and see a lot of my friends who are working in industries that they absolutely adore, which is like events or even promoters, DJs, I don't know, they're all working in industries where technically in our culture, I mean, at least in our generation, when I grew up, it wasn't an industry you would pick, an industry your parents would be proud of, let's say. So for me to see that and then see just such joy and love in what they're doing, and then see them year after year, and then think of myself like, okay, but I'm just going back to this dull job. And I remember thinking to myself when they would ask me, so how's work? And I'm just like, oh, it's okay, whatever. I just like brush it off. I'm like, but your life is more interesting. Tell me about you. I sort of had this attitude and I hated it. I hated to feel like I was the one that was sort of brushing my life aside because it's uninteresting and someone else's life is much more interesting than mine. So these people used to tell me year on year, like, Tracy, I thought you said this year you're going to quit. I thought you said this year you're going to quit. And obviously it's hard. I mean, especially when you're making good money and you're in a senior position, it's not, I mean, to make the conscious choice to say I'm out is very, very hard. So mine didn't really happen as a conscious choice where I planned it. It was more of me going head to head with my last boss. He didn't really like me. I was just like fed up with the industry. I just started to see the colors of the industry in the failing economy where people's intentions were not as aligned with my intentions, let's put it that way. Okay. So I just
And were you
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, were you through your younger years growing up, did you feel like a job in banking or finance, like was that the goal when you were younger, or do you feel that maybe you were a bit preconditioned to think that way from friends and family and society?
Was it a passion? No. Did I adore the fact that I was in the industry? I absolutely loved it. And I loved it for reasons that were stroking my ego, not for reasons that were a true love for the industry. I mean, no, I can't really say that. I loved trading, for instance. It was so fun for me. I loved being on the desk. I would be the last one to leave, constantly picking up and learning there. Moving into different departments, some departments were more dull than others, and that's where I kind of found a lull in the industry. But what I wanted in my 20s is not what I want in what I wanted in my 30s. So it was important for me, and I love the fact that I was in that industry for 10 years because it taught me absolutely a lot. And I don't think I would have been able to develop my business the way I do now if I didn't have a background in corporate, if I didn't have a background in finance. So it helped. But again, different people, right? Different mindsets, and that's why I wanted different things. And once again, I always say this, I don't think you're supposed to be in the same industry for the rest of your life. I mean, who's to say you're a doctor and therefore that is it for you? You can't enjoy anything else, and you can't try to be a cook in your 40s. I mean, who's to say, right? So I just shifted.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because like I could kind of relate to what you went through, because like I'm in a similar position right now where like my background was like very quantitative. I was about to enter the financial field before Corona happened, the lockdown happened, and the markets were a bit terrible. So then I started doing this podcasting idea with Ryan, which was considered very creative. But then again, when you go back to Lebanon, you tell people, oh, you're doing podcasting. It's like, so when is he gonna get a real job? When are you gonna get a job?
They look at you like they look at you like you're an alien. Like you're literally an extraterrestrial coming in and saying, hey, I'm gonna go into podcasting.
And now, because recently, like now I moved back to the UK, and now I'm about to get a new job, and people are like, oh, you finally got a real job, great, yeah, now they could do the podcasting as a side, as a hobby. I'm like, so why do you quit? Like, that's the thing that I get annoyed with. You have the traditional jobs that our society made, like we grow up in our society to believe are like the ones that make you money. So that's a real job. Whereas if you want to do something you're passionate about in the creative field, that's more of a hobby, or that's even like the slay, as some people say it.
It's funny. It's funny you're saying that at the now, because right before I got on the podcast with you, I told my boyfriend I have this podcast with these guys. They're young guys, and I think they're really cool. I took it because to be honest, in our 20s, I don't remember seeing a lot of my friends who had a passion or an interest or a purpose that is beyond themselves or beyond quote unquote menyake, you know, like the ha ha ha, look at this guy, look at this. It was a very much of this kind of culture. And to see men at that, like men like you doing this, for me, I think it's incredible. I love the fact that you're out there, you're putting yourselves out there, and I know it's difficult. It's not an easy thing to be heard and to speak and to maybe mess up, you know, and get judged. So for me, I think this is passion. Well, it's not so much about passion. I'm sick of the narrative of passion. It's more of purpose, of like, you know what, this interests me. It's interesting. It's good conversation. And why not this versus coffee shops and hanging out and PS all the time, for instance. This is a good, you know, a way to angle it. And your point about this not being an industry, again, this is the culture. I mean, this is, you guys probably know so many people now that you're in the industry who are making a lot of money doing what you guys are doing, who branch out into very different things. Because you woke up this creative side of you, you tend to like think of different avenues of how you can monetize, how you can get into something interesting. I thought I was completely sheltered in this one two-dimensional sort of role, that I'm not good at anything beyond this role. And people told me that, even in the industry, when they moved me from trading to another department, I'm like, look, I think I'm better at trading. No, you're not. I think you should be in this. I mean, why is somebody telling me what I'm good at? You know what I mean? It's kind of that thought process. And when you put yourself out of that, you guys realize that, look, okay, I'm doing pretty well. My numbers are growing. My following is growing. People are interested in these podcasts. That's success, right?
I think the toughest thing, especially in, you know, being Lebanese or even Middle Eastern, is dealing with the outside noise, is dealing with the reaction of friends and family. I think that's the biggest key, because if you have supportive friends and family, shit, you feel like you can do anything. Yeah. And I think something 100%. That might have helped us in a very weird way is Corona. Like due to Corona over the past few months, like we've literally had to isolate ourselves at home, so we didn't get a chance to see outside reaction. Do you know what I mean by attending social gatherings or family gatherings and hearing people say, oh, what the fuck are you doing with your life? You're seriously talking to people, and you know, that's the avenue of success that you're choosing to go through, which can be very demotivating, you know, even if you have a strong personality. So with you, when you decided to make that switch to do your own things, was there a lot of stigma from friends and family, or was it like an easy transition?
All the time. I mean,
okay. Yeah.
Time. And I think the people that are closest to you, the ones that are around you, really are the ones that are more, I mean, let's say negative or cynical. But the people that are far away from you, like people following you on your podcast, following on my Instagram, they're like, I love what you're doing. This is amazing. This is cool, right? But I learned that it didn't bother me at some point, because I realized that this was a projection of what they're afraid to do. And I was afraid to do it at some point. So of course the voice is going to be, Tracy, who's going to pay your rent? I mean, I haven't taken money from my parents since I was 18 and a half, 19. So it was not a question for me to go back to the parents. I don't have a backup plan. I don't have a rich uncle. It's not like that for me. So it was like, what are you doing? Like, this is an industry that is paying you paycheck to paycheck. I just blocked the noise. I think the dullness of what I felt was so overpowering that at some point it almost felt like I was pushed into the direction of just get out, you know? So just block it, I guess.
And in terms
like,
of, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, because like also at the time, like you were independent, you were successful, but at the same time, you know, and it's unfortunate that I have to bring this up, but you know how it is in our societies when it comes to like labeling people based off gender. So like you were a woman at the time who was in a senior position, and then like you just quit all of your job. So to quit your job to do something that was very, even now to a certain extent, it's still not very like would be well received in most Lebanese families, especially if you're getting a high-end job. So like, was there also that thing, oh wait, you're a woman, like you shouldn't be doing this, you have a good job, why are you leaving, is a mistake? Was there any of that traditional gender stereotype when you decided?
You know what was a traditional gender, not necessarily gender, but a traditional stereotype? It was, actually, I think it's the opposite. Maybe because I'm a woman, it was almost like, hey, بس إنه ما علي هلا تروح إنه she'll have a good time, she'll do her thing. Like some people would maybe take the angle because if I was a man, it would be more frowned upon and more difficult for a man to leave an industry like that. Like, what are you doing? How are you going to take care of your family, right? Maybe I never heard the sentence, how are you going to take care of your kids? Because the assumption is the man is going to take care of the kids, correct? So my thought process was that, like, okay, I'm going to have kids one day. If I'm going to have kids, am I not? And how am I going to pay my bills? I think that for myself, but other people are not going to assume Tracy takes on this responsibility. So alternatively, the narrative I heard a lot was, because don't forget, I left and it was a very sudden leave. Like I was head to head. If you don't like it, I'm going to leave. Yeah, sure, leave. I'm like, leave? That means I'm leaving. Okay, this is how I'm ending my career. And now I started planning. And to plan and to save up money, I had to take sort of the next role that is closest to the industry that I want to get to, which is sports and adventure. That maybe it's not the glorified to me at the time because I was so brainwashed into thinking these are your categories of what you're supposed to do. And it was taking private clients, PTing. And then people used to tell me, Tracy, you're the one that used to hire PTs. Now you're sitting and PTing people, as if it's such a shameful role.
It's like a demotivation.
It's so demeaning, you know, to try and hustle your way. Yeah,
and you know, I'm not gonna lie. For a while, I actually believed, like, I don't want to tell anybody. I'm never gonna announce it on my Instagram that I'm doing PTs, but I will PT a few people because I need some money right now. And then with time, I started realizing just how much fun it was for me to wake up in the morning, doing like the routine I have, going on head to head with like 2-3 people that I was PTing, and then seeing that progress, but getting so excited for them. Now I didn't want to be a PT, but that role was exciting for me because it was something I was looking forward to, seeing progress in people. It made me so happy. And then I realized I used to sit on this job for 8 hours, literally watching YouTube, being so inefficient, so useless, just because somebody told me I need to stay on this desk till it's 5 or 6 o'clock when it's an off day, when it's a dull day. And now when I think of just not being able to maximize my time and somebody telling me I'd rather you sit on YouTube instead of maximizing your time is absolutely ridiculous to me. So it's just a learning, and I needed it, I think, at the time, but I just didn't need it anymore after my 30s.
It's, as you know, said, like, it's an accumulation of experience. Like, you learn a lot from the role, and at the same time, it's comfort. It's comforting. Why do many people, especially in our society, take these jobs? The reason they take these jobs is because it's maybe not as risky, and it's financially, it's more secure. And I know for a fact that maybe 95% of my friends that are consultants, that are working in banking, don't really like it. Yeah, I asked them, do you actually like your role? Do you enjoy what you do? No, I hate it every single time. Man, I have so much work, it's shit, but it pays well. And if I tell my parents I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna get into a fight with my parents. So then I asked them, so do you actually see yourself working in this industry for 20 years and saying that you love it just because of money? Some say yes, because we have no choice. Others are like, you know, eventually I want to leave, but like I just have to do it for now. So that's they don't actually do it because they like it.
Can I just add that what you guys are saying is definitely sound, and I agree. But I think also from my perspective, also having friends who are consultants in banking and whatever, I think some people are suited to that comfort zone. They're suited to that structure. Like, not everyone, I think, is meant to be entrepreneurial. You know what I mean? And go and pursue the shit that
100%.
they want to do.
And look, let's not get this wrong. It's not a debate about what's better, entrepreneurship or corporate. It's literally about a debate, what makes you feel alive and good every day. That's all it is. And it could be corporate, because, you know, the few friends that you have, Tariq, would be telling you, I want to stay in the industry. And guess what? There are some people that are killing it in the industry and it suits them like hell. But other people are on autopilot. And this autopilot is what I'm against. It's literally the feeling of being on autopilot. You can work for a creative agency, you can work for whoever, PR, you're not on autopilot. You must love what you do. But some people are literally on autopilot, and that just, it takes away a lot from your mind and who you can be, and it really takes away, it just makes you not see the potential of what you can possibly do when you're living on autopilot.
You know, we follow, especially, I mean, all over the world, but in the Middle East and Lebanon growing up, I've seen it, we follow metrics and we follow numbers, and it's what's the quickest route to success, what's the quickest route to make $1 million, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you think, in your opinion, Kamin, how do you break that that brainwashed mentality and kind of social structure we have of go for the money, follow the money, become wealthy, because that's what's the most important thing.
So I think, honestly, truly, unless you're some guru from, I don't know, like a monk somewhere
Tibet.
who really doesn't care, I think everybody's after money. I mean, I'm not going to be upset if I make $1 million. I mean, honestly, every strategy I have is how can I monetize off of this thing and make it a business and grow it into something. I mean, for me, the idea of growing something from this to make it large and then inevitably it makes money, fantastic. But it's to be able to do that, I don't think you're ever going to get there if you're on autopilot. You will never get there. You will constantly be the employee that is earning a paycheck to paycheck, probably got fired, got rehired here, maybe got a demotion, then one promotion in 4 or 5 years. This is the lifestyle of the autopilot person. But the either the entrepreneur or the corporate person who is literally after what they love, you're doing something that you care about, and you're doing it over and over again. And there is no deadline or a time where you're going to stop. You're really going to constantly think of, this is what I do sometimes. I promise you, I wake up sometimes with a thought and I just jot it down or type it on my phone because I'm like, how did I not think of this? It just came to me because I'm switched on, constantly switched on. My mindset back in the role that I was unhappy in near the end, because I loved it at the beginning. Near the end, when the market got bad, I just started hating it. My mindset was, you know what? Don't talk to me after 6 p.m. I'm switching off. And I wouldn't even think of a single thing. I wouldn't pick up on a client. Why? I mean, if you like what you're doing, it's no longer job then lifestyle. Your lifestyle is, I have a role and I have, it's everything. It's the job, it's your life, right? Part of your life is your job. Why do you need to cut it and then start something? It just doesn't make sense.
Tracy, you mentioned something. You mentioned something that was quite interesting when you did quit your job. You said people weren't really frowning upon that decision as much as they would with a man, because they said, well, she can always, marry a man and start a family, and that could be your duty in a way. And I saw you once speaking about this idea that you have to have kids, you know what I mean? Like the ultimate goal in life, especially for a woman, is to marry, start a family, take care of kids. And you said something which is so true. And you said, like, many people who are just not cut out to be parents. And I think in Lebanese society, Middle Eastern society, this is something that people don't tend to think about. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone is meant for this family duty role.
100%. I mean, a lot of people, let's start at the very beginning. A lot of people are not in tune with themselves. They're not self-analytical. They're not after self-growth. They don't really assess and think of who they want to be. Who am I? What do I want to do? What really makes me happy? It's, again, a life of autopilot versus a career of autopilot. So they tend to just go with the flow, right? Society says graduate. It says, high-end career. It says get married, have children. So therefore I shall. It's a very sheep sort of mentality. It's not the mentality of what's my choice, what do I want to do? That's probably opposing to so many people, but this is what I want, so be it. And then you tend to see, I mean, for someone like me who learned to be this way, I used to be the autopilot girl, like I said. I'm not someone to preach because I'm still in a huge learning. I mean, it's not about telling people what to do. It's me telling you how I changed my mindset. And then with that, I started to think, okay, right now, I don't know if I want kids at this point. Eventually, yeah, if I have a partner, this partner eventually makes me feel the feeling of, you know what, let's grow this partnership. How about we get a kid together? That will be the transition. But the tricky thing is, I want a kid. Okay, but you don't have a partner. You don't have a family. You don't have a solid foundation. You don't have anything. So how do you want this before you have any of these things? And again, I want a wife just because I want a wife, right? Because I want children. But then again, you see a lot of men who are, I mean, I constantly am like baffled. How is this person a parent? Never around, doesn't take care of their kids, and people would see me when I was younger, 17, 18, 19, even till today. I love kids. I adore them. Does it mean that I think I need to be a parent? No, you could like kids, but the responsibility of being a parent is something you need to really assess. And it goes back to a point, like now I'm dating. I've been dating my boyfriend for about a year now, and everything's going well. And we talk about the potential of being together and all of those things. And this is when the conversation comes, the thought probably comes, you assess it and analyze it. And you know what? There's this is something that was on my mind recently, so it's good we're bringing it up. A lot of women tend to be super afraid to mention, because I get this now, do you discuss with Watt in marriage? Like, please don't bring it up, don't freak him out.
Like, I was actually gonna
man, they would literally say like, don't freak him out, things like that. And I'm like, freak him out? And yeah, I used to do this in the past when I was dating a guy for 5 years. On the year 4 was when I'm like, maybe I should just bring it up, because I just need to be sensitive to the male ego, right? I don't want him to feel like I'm offending him or pressuring him. And now I'm just like, what the fuck? This is my life. I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to decide with you and for me if this is going to happen or if it's not going to happen. So, hey, dude, listen, what's going to happen? We should discuss this. And if he's not on the same wavelength as me, the only explanation is we're just not good for each other. But it could be in reverse as well, where the woman could be like, hold on, he's asking me, but I'm just not ready. So she starts stalling and giving excuses. But the only explanation is we're just not good for each other. It can't possibly be if the man is okay to have this conversation or not. And you should literally tiptoe around it, pretend you don't care, pretend this. Why should I pretend I don't care about something that is so damn important? It's a huge decision. If I'm going to have children or not, if I'm going to be married or not, if I'm going to be in this career or not. Why do I spend months deciding whether I go through one career or not, years, but it will take me 3 months to get married and get engaged, or not bring up something as important as that? I mean, people just don't assess that. They really don't. It's frightening.
Yeah, personally for me, I remember because of the lockdown, because of coronavirus, I remember I actually had a small argument with my parents about this subject. And it was when I first started working on the podcast and I took the decision to move back to Lebanon temporarily. And they were like losing their minds. How are you moving back to Lebanon right now? And you're doing this podcast? And they thought that I was going to throw my career away. So once I remember got into an argument about why I should move back to London. And then they brought up something which kind of like annoyed me. They're like, hey, Halla, you're eventually gonna become in you're 24, you're gonna reach your late 20s in a few years, and then then you have to start thinking about making a family, then you have to start thinking about marriage and raising your kids. And I'm like, and if you don't have a proper career by then, you're not gonna be financially stable. Women won't want to marry you. I'm like, wait, hold on. Who told you that I want to get married at my late 20s or start a family in my late 30s? I was like, I could even stay like single until I'm like 40 or get married when I'm 40. Like, there is no time frame for me about what age you should get married. And personally, I think it's like, as you said, it depends on mentally, like if you're ready, first of all, and how much in tune you are with yourself. And second of all, it depends on the person you meet. Because I also feel there are a lot of people that meet somebody in their late 20s. I'm talking about like in Lebanese society, and because it's that age, late 20s, they might not even know the person so much. They might date for a few months, maybe a year, and then quickly jump 3 steps instead of taking these 3 steps, go 3 steps ahead and one large step, get married because they're pressurized by their families to get married and by the societal norms, and then it ends up going to shit.
100%.
We once got a lot of shit for saying that we really feel like in Lebanese society in general pressures women to marry early, and we got backlash for this because a few women were saying, well, what about biological factors and personal choice? And Tada and I basically said, a woman can get married at any age she wants to. If that's a personal decision, whose business is it? None of our business. But what we were trying to say is, there is a lot of preconditioning from friends, from family, from social groups, from every kind of facet of these social structures to be like, all right, once you get to this certain age, you need to be on the lookout for a man. And what I was trying to say, and what the point of what we were trying to do was, we spoke about being self-analytical. So it would be great if a lot of people, men and women, not only women, to when they reach their 20s, to really properly sit down and think, am I going to be getting married right now because I genuinely love my partner and because I want to start a life with them and because I want to start a family with them and that really excites me? Or am I doing it to make mama and baba happy? Am I doing it to make my friends who are all married happy? And this is, I think, a huge battle that needs to happen, because there are people who are just not meant for this. There are people who have very different trajectories. Maybe they go down the entrepreneurial path and their life is about their career rather than, and I think it's being self-analytical, which needs to come in more to.
You know what? And those people, if they made those decisions, alternatively, they would be 10 times happier than they are. I mean, you guys hear this, I'm sure. I don't know if you have, I mean, you guys are still young, but I have a lot of my friends that are married, and a lot of the time, it's the same joke, which is the husband makes fun, hey, I'm finally out of the house. And this typical, it's almost like it's brainwashed, like I have to say it to be funny. Like this is the comedy of a married couple. Like, I can't stand this, or I can't do this with my wife. And I'm just like, guys, this is a narrative that is old news, and it doesn't have to happen. And the man that doesn't have this narrative with his wife, he actually is friendly. They do things together. A lot of the guys in our society will mock this man, like, he's whipped. Look how much he spends time with his wife.
Yeah, that's so true.
What is this mindset? I mean, instead of thinking, you know what? I married someone who's cool, who's fun. She's my best friend. I love hanging out with this person. They very quickly switch it to gender. A wife no longer becomes a person with who she initially was, but she just becomes a wife, a female, and then vice versa. Jose, man, men versus women. It's almost like a rivalry as soon as the marriage certificate is there. But before that, man, this girl's so cool. We're dating, we're hooking up, we're doing this, we're doing that, right? She's cool, or he's cool first, but that coolness sort of shaves off later.
And do you think that's a main reason? A quick question from my end first. And do you think that's a main reason, though? I've never read articles about it, but I've seen headlines every now and then around social media talking about like how in our generation, especially last few years, divorce rates have been at an all-time high, not just in the Arab world, but globally as well. And do you think, like, I'm sure like that's maybe one of the main reasons as to why divorce rates are at an all-time high, because people are not actually taking a rational decision while getting married. They're jumping too quickly.
I think that 100%. I think every marriage is bound to be difficult and not fun in many regards. You get annoyed with somebody who's there all the time, who's probably going on a different path than you are, because people change, people develop, and if someone is static in your high trajectory or vice versa, you probably will clash. But I think if you had a solid foundation to begin with, the likelihood of you calling it quits within a year because you're just sick of this person is quite low. Because you know what, there's a real solid friendship connection, commitment there. It wasn't based on other factors. It wasn't because I wanted a child that I have this man, and now that I have the child, you know what, peace, I don't need to be here, right? I mean, if this foundation is there from the beginning, I think the likelihood of you wanting to hurt that person is low, because you're thinking, man, this guy is my friend. I'm not gonna backstab my friend. Why would I do that? I mean, why would you backstab your business partner? If you have a business partner, or you hear of a business partner that backstabbed another, everybody in the society is talking about it. But if you hear of a man cheating on a woman, now it's like, hayda kamin am bikhun jawza. Man, it's just like, you know, it goes in passing, like standard behavior. But if it's backstabbing a partner or a best friend, then all of a sudden the whole society is talking about this person, right? It's just what counts as backstabbing. If cheating doesn't count as backstabbing, is deceit not counted as backstabbing, you know?
I think something you mentioned as well, which I can definitely relate to, is that the comments about being, oh, you're whipped when you're in a happy relationship. I've been dating for 4 years, and I've gotten that thousands and thousands of times. And in the beginning, it used to really piss me off. And by the way, just to be fair, I was one of those guys. Like, before dating, I was one of the guys who looked at the happy couple, and when my friend said, oh, I'm going out with my girlfriend to dinner, I'd be like, whipped.
Yeah.
But you were also like 18, 19 at the time, though.
True.
Let's be fair.
True, and I thought it was the funniest. To be fair, to give myself credit. And then you know, in the beginning, it didn't really bother me, but then it gets to a point where you just have to ask yourself, like, why are you constantly getting these comments? Like, here's the thing. I know a lot of couples who are in relationships that are a bit difficult when dealing with the dynamics of your friends. What do I mean by this? I know some couples that, you know, will really stop seeing their friends and put each other over everyone else, and it'll start to diminish from their friendships and start to cause rifts, and you know what I mean? Like, the dynamics start to really change. But to be fair, I don't think with my girlfriend we are that type of couple. We're very fair. We love to go out with our friends. Of course, we love our alone time, but we're really fair, and on the contrary, when she encourages me to be with my friends, I encourage her to be with her friends, and to each have our own space. So I used to always tell myself, well, we're in quite a fair relationship in that point of view, but I'm still getting comments that, oh, you're so whipped, oh, without the girlfriend, you're so whipped. And I think you mentioned it, Tracy, it's a projection of insecurity. Like, these guys, I've convinced myself, probably really deep down want to be in happy relationships, so they just talk shit about your relationship and bikib sem, as we like to say in Arabic, because who wouldn't be happy to see a friend with a girl they like in a healthy, responsible relationship?
Let's not go so far. If you find a girl who's a wife, let's say, who's doing really well in her career in our society, and her husband is supportive of that and backing her up and taking a second seat in some occasion when she needs to sit first seat because now it's her time to shine on this, when she was taking a back seat when it was his time to shine, and they're kind of sort of pushing each other and supporting each other. I hear it a lot because I have, now my friends are in their 30s, so success is starting to come, and I have a few girlfriends who are successful. Their husbands are backing them up, and you hear this a lot where it is, yeah, he's so whipped, like, he lets his wife do this and he's right behind her, right? As opposed to thinking, dude, there's a whole machine working on this industry and in this career, and his input is nothing shy of 80% because of all of the things he knows how to do, which maybe she doesn't know how. But because she's in the limelight, it sort of doesn't make sense to people, right? They don't see it as support, a person that literally brought it from here to here. They kind of see it as he's taking a second seat.
And they always look at it as a competition as well, like, oh, the wife makes, or the woman makes more money in the house, so the guy has no say, she's the one in control.
I feel like that belittles their masculinity a bit. They're like, oh, for the woman to be earning more money than the man, something is wrong in that dynamic. So Tracy, I once saw you say, I think it was on an Instagram video, how you deal with the question, and this was back when you were single, how is a girl like you still single? And I think you dissected it really well. So do you want to tell me why that question is actually not the most appropriate or not the most applicable to ask?
This question applies to many things, not just the single thing. It applies to the how old are you, as if that is a taboo question. Like, why is there a connotation of it being shameful if we're just doing what life
just growing old.
Doing what life is actually about. Like, I can't control it. This is what life is about.
How dare you get older? I mean, that's just ridiculous.
And why is a girl like you still single? I mean, that applies to just like we're talking about. I mean, look, let me just make a point. I'm the least person who thinks, well, let me rephrase that. It's not about women power, women versus men, and women are should be this, men are not. I mean, all of my friends have always been guys. I grew up loving men, and I still do, and I'm just a guy's girl. So it has really nothing to do with it. And I take jokes very, very well. I'm not sensitive to light humor. But this is not a guy versus girl thing. This is a mentality thing. It's girls thinking this about themselves. It's not about men thinking this of me or otherwise. And the why is a girl like you still single? This question is asked by parents, by relatives, by girls, by boys, by everybody. And the immediate reaction to yourself, because again, this is about being self-analytical. If I'm thinking, why am I still single? No one's picking me. Then my whole demeanor is about me being a victim to not being picked socially or in this social circle that everybody. And I remember my mom used to say stuff like, in couples in Lebanese society or whatever, usually if there's a single person, they don't invite them anymore. Usually it's just, les couplets. الكوبلات بيظهروا مع بعض بس. What is this nonsense? It's just such a random thing. I mock it all the time. It's just humor to me. But why is a girl like you still single pretty much means, why hasn't anyone picked you yet? What's wrong with you? Versus, oh, you're not single, you don't feel like dating now, you don't want to be married. It's not about your choice. It's about somebody else's choice, choosing not to pick you, and then therefore making you a victim. That's why I find it ridiculous. And people say it as people come back and say, but it's a compliment. When I say this to you, I mean it as a compliment. I get what they mean. Don't get me wrong. I don't think people are just out to get you. They obviously mean, oh, you're pretty, or you're intelligent, or you're this, or you're that. So why are you still single? But the fact of the matter is, the subconscious is actually saying, what's wrong with you? Come on. Like, I'm sure there's something wrong with you. What? It's just...
Yeah, they're trying to figure. They're like, it doesn't make sense to them because on face value they've assessed you to be, marriage material or relationship material. So for you not to be that, all the red flags are going off.
Yeah, like she must be crazy. I'm sure she has some sort of thing,
She must be batshit crazy. Yeah, maybe.
It has to be. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. You can't just not be single because you just didn't want to get married at that point. It's just impossible. That is not a possibility. But everything else
of course
is a possibility.
That takes rationality. Why would we exactly? Let's not go down that route. Of course. And I think it's a thing within I grew up most of my life in Lebanon, and man, Lebanese people are fucking upfront about shit. You know what I mean? Like, if you've gained weight, no one will tell you except a Lebanese person. If you go into a room and there are 10 different nationalities, one being Lebanese, and you've put on 6 kilos and everyone has seen you before and after, I guarantee you the Lebanese person will be the person that tells you, wow, you've put on weight. Shoo, is everything okay at home? Is everything okay in your relationship?
You know that I actually was with somebody, I'm not going to say names obviously, but I was with someone, we ran into a Lebanese guy friend, and that other person had gained a lot of weight. So the first thing he said was like, man, what the fuck, akalt walad? Literally, like it's
okay.
Like it's
no mercy.
Yeah. It's just funny. But
it's
again,
amazing. It's amazing, and it's even tougher when
I think it's maybe just a generation thing. It could happen. I think it happens a lot with the frat boys sort of thing in the US. I mean, it's a very generational thing. It's not really a Lebanese thing.
That's true. Something I saw you as well talk about was the difference over the past few generations in beauty standards globally. And I think you gave quite an interesting talk on that. And you were basically saying in the 50s how the image was more suited to an Audrey Hepburn style woman, like the idealistic suburban housewife who would conform to the man and be there to cook and clean. And then in the 80s, it went to a more athletic type of woman and everything. And it kept over the generations changing and shifting with media and cinema and Hollywood and all that. What do you think the beauty standards are now with social media?
I mean, I'll tell you what I think they are. I just obviously don't want to acknowledge or agree with it. The beauty standards are every filter we see, every beauty filter we see. That's a beauty standard. I think those filters are obviously make me and everybody else look stunning, but I think they're detrimental because you think of yourself as stunning momentarily, and even if you're a pretty girl or a pretty guy or a good-looking guy, and then you turn that filter off within a second, that quick shift between the actual and then the filter is honestly, even a woman who is like myself, I'm confident, I'm established, I'm not all about what I look like, I have 100 things going for me that I try to work on, and I get insecure when I see that kind of shift. And beauty standards right now is so, I mean, I don't know if it's, because I don't want to sound like my parents. My parents are, just like all of our parents, Nahna in our generation, your generation is crap, right? I feel like I'm doing this, right? And look at this new generation, my generation used to have whatever. But media is media, and I think it came in the form of magazines and billboards before, and so, you know what I mean? And now it's in the form of like right on your iPhone, and it's
now it's on our fingertips, which is the scariest part, because for these images to wash into your head, if you're a man or a woman, like you're saying, back in the day it was traditional, it was billboards, it was going to movies,
magazines, and you'd see all these touched up photos, right? I mean,
100%. That's nothing new. Like touching up and playing with how you look and trying to enhance how you look has been done for the past 30-40 years, with advertising and publishing. But the scary thing now is it's at your fingertips. Like you're looking at it. I don't know what your screen time is generally, but like 6-7 hours a day, whether it's on the laptop, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on TV. And that's the scary thing with me. And I think it's leading to a lot more cases of body dysmorphia and eating disorders and plastic surgery, هلا my opinion is anyone can get plastic surgery. That's not for me to say, but it's what context are you getting plastic surgery under, and I think that's the scary thing with the detriment that social media has done to beauty standards and how women and men look, to be honest with you. It goes for both.
Look, I mean, you said something that's true. I mean, it causes a lot of body image dysmorphia and all of those things, but it's more importantly, I mean, I said this before, and a lot of people say something like, when I made that comment about the filter thing on my Instagram, some people said, yeah, but you can't talk because you look like that, but I don't look like you, and therefore I'm allowed to use a filter, for instance. But that's not the logic. The logic is you can't change what you look like. You look like what you look like. Otherwise, you do plastic surgery or whatever fillers.
Unless you go to Dr. Nadir Saab in Lebanon. You know that guy that used to be on the MEA screens, who was a very shady plastic surgeon. So, yeah, sorry, continue.
You look like what you look like, right? So saying that, therefore, I can go through a mental complex and insecurity journey by switching what I look like back and forth and constantly remind myself that you're not as pretty as this, you're not as pretty, then therefore it makes it okay. But the whole argument is it doesn't make it okay because for you, not for anybody else. I'm not here to judge anybody who uses filters. I mean, I sometimes use the funny filters for me because personally, the beauty filters make me feel like, okay, maybe I need to touch up on my nose, or maybe I need to put like fillers in my cheeks because, I mean, look how good it looks. I don't want to feel that way. So I just don't use it. And not knowing what the potential could look like is safer than seeing that and then constantly thinking, but maybe I should do it, but maybe I should do it, but maybe I should do it. No. And that's me, a grown-ass woman. Imagine a 19-year-old, a 15-year-old. It's not okay. Yeah. It's just not safe, And I also wanted to say something about what you said, the whole body image wave and narrative that we're hearing. It's all good. Okay, I think it's great that people are embracing all types of bodies and all types of and being okay with themselves. I think this is primarily the point. I think every topic or narrative starts off right with the right intention, but people choose to misinterpret or just say it the way they want to say it, which is not the point at all. Like, for instance, this filter thing that I just talked about. Some people are like, yeah, but because I look like this, therefore I can do that. With this whole body image thing, I'm honestly tired of seeing people praise obesity, put them in swimsuits, putting them in lingerie, and then saying, you go girl, you look amazing. No, you don't. You know why you don't look amazing? Because I'm so worried for your health. It's not because I'm judging your clothes. You're not to praise and clap for obesity. It's just not okay. To praise and clap for obviously things. I mean, I'm not talking about stretch marks, things you can't control, certain parts of cellulite, things you can't control. I'm talking about telling people, love yourself, be unhealthy, potentially die, because obesity is the #1 cause of death in the US alone, disease-wise. And then you're sitting and praising and putting them on magazine covers just to show that you're okay with everything. Because being normal nowadays, just having a normal opinion, is not okay. You have to be sort of alternative, and you have to be like hippie-like to think of something in a very different light for it to be cool and selective and whatever. I mean, no, sometimes having the standard reaction, which is, this is not okay, let's not praise this. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't mean that all the woke people have to look at Tracy to say, Tracy, how can you say that? No, you should say everybody looks amazing. Everybody looks good. It's not a preference. It's not a choice. It's more about the health issue. It's not about, I prefer this body over that body. Don't praise what's unhealthy, what's not right. It's just not okay. I don't know what's going on with the world sometimes.
I've been saying this for a while, and I've been a very hard critic on certain aspects of this new woke movement that we have. And one of them, while I love the fact that we are now more accepting of certain body images, and I think that's going to be great, and it's going to help a lot of kids, especially when they're going through their peak insecure years. But like you're saying, this is all about health as opposed to look. So, for instance, if the obese girl who was on a Sports Illustrated cover was
an
technically
athlete or training,
all okay from a health perspective, but she just looked that way, I would have no problem with it.
1,000%.
This is a completely different conversation. It's not critiquing the look, it's critiquing the health, and I think that's something that's so important. I never understood why, and I saw a lot of podcasters, journalists talk about this. We shouldn't be giving the wrong idea to people in terms of not taking care of your health. You know what I mean? If you are 60 kilos overweight and completely healthy, that's great. You do you want to have that look. It's nobody's business to tell you how you should look. But when it comes to your health, this is something that needs to be taken extremely seriously.
No, 100%. And also people tend to become complacent, and then you become complacent because of this narrative. You're like, you know what, whatever, I'm gonna look the way I want to look, and I will have unhealthy food when I want, joke about it, flaunt about it all the time. I mean, no. I mean, the right thing to do is eat clean as much as you can, have your cheat meals. I do it, man. I eat burgers, I eat pizza, I love it. But I know myself, when I'm off track, I'm like, Tracy, you have a month, you need to be strict on yourself, you need to eat clean, because it's only good for my heart, it's good for my organs, it's good for my health. Not because I want to look a certain way. And it's not about get thin, it's about be disciplined. And this is what goes back to the whole obesity thing. If you look the way you look, and you're voluptuous, and you're healthy, and you're eating well, and you're balanced in your life, you're mentally balanced, amazing. I think you're absolutely stunning, because stunning is not a physical aspect. It is how you carry yourself, how you think. That's stunning to me.
And this all goes under things like cancel culture and all these types of things. It's scaring me how extreme people are being now, how the sensitivity levels have gone shot to, code red. It's something very...
People are ruthless.
Very annoying.
This whole cancel culture is just...
100%. People are ruthless now. Did you see that thing with... This has nothing to do with cancel culture, but in terms of people being ruthless, like there was that image of Kendall Jenner that went viral. It was her and her... I think she was wearing lingerie, and it was liked like 10 million times and sent around. And then basically next to that image was this 17-year-old girl who was like NASA's aerospace youngest person to pass their entry test or something. And the whole point of this campaign was saying, like, how can Kendall Jenner's image of her in her lingerie become viral massively? Whereas this girl, the 17-year-old, is unheard of and non-celebrated. And I think obviously these are two different extremes, and there are many women out there who are being celebrated, but it does raise a good point with all this fucking TikTok, Instagram type of shit. Like, it's crazy how the things that are not very significant tend to shoot and become viral and be spread around like this, whereas the actual things that should be lauded and should be complimented and should be discussed tend to get overlooked and not taken too seriously.
I mean, I have this conversation at least 3-4 times a week, especially on social media. It's unfortunate, but it's true that the fact is, Instagram is, for the majority of people, somewhere where people want light and fun. For the majority, okay, I think. And the mass want dumb, light, fun content. This is what mass wants, right? And the minute that you're a bit complex and you're a bit, you have a bit of an angle, and it's like, you know what, whatever, I don't want to hear this right now. Let me go to this laughing, joking sort of video, which is giving me entertainment. I mean, I see it for myself. If I film something that literally took me 30 seconds, it was like a funny challenge with my boyfriend, I'll get 250,000 views on it. But then if I'm talking about a topic that I personally put so much thought into, and I do a talk, I'll get like 50,000 views. Because people are just not that, like, not everybody is keen on that angle. They're more keen on Instagram, I want light, I want fun. This is what I think.
Do you think that's because of the platform, or because of just in general what we as human beings want?
No, I think maybe in general. But the platform is obviously what everybody showcases.
Do you think with things like Clubhouse now, like there might be a chance to show the other side, the more thought-provoking type of content?
I love the idea of Clubhouse. I honestly think it's brilliant. The fact that it's almost like telling you, you know what you look like doesn't really matter. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. And do a lot of people have a lot to say? Do you have anything that comes through your mind that is quite interesting that people want to hear? If so, let me know. And then you'll find 1 out of 10 people would be like, okay, maybe I have something to say. The other 9 are going to be like, no, maybe what am I going to say right now? So that's a really good filter, right? So I mean, it's a good filter. Most people will just be there lurking and listening, but very few will have something to say. Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say reading is not, the industry of reading is out. Stuff like that is dying. Like some people think this way. It's crazy that you actually think the industry of reading a book and educating yourself and sort of leveling up is dying. What's in right now is the YouTube, podcast, whatever. No, man, you have to have everything. You need to be well-rounded in every regard. Even if you don't know about finance, get yourself involved. I mean, I was poor in accounting and financial planning. I read about it. I work on it because it's a life skill. People need to get good at life skills. It's not about, okay, I'm good on Instagram and that's it. So let me just stick to what I'm doing on Instagram.
I think platforms like yours help a lot in this sense because, people can look surface value and they could think, oh, she just makes, cute, fun videos and challenges and stuff. But actually why I wanted to talk to you and thought it as well is because you like to go into these discussions. I think you're a really good orator. You're a really good speaker and you like debate and discussion. And this is something that's key, especially for someone who has such a large following as yourself. Like, to do both sides, I think is really commendable. It's something that I enjoy seeing. And I wanted to get your opinion, definitely, now that I have you here. And technically, this is now one-on-one consulting. You're someone who obviously advocates a very healthy lifestyle, not only physically, but mentally. Anna, I have a lot of Lebanese family members who are what we'd call of traditional mentality, which means they put like 6 kilograms of mazola oil when they make lunch and dinner. And not more than, I don't really care about the nutrition side of things, but mentally, how do I get through to my older Lebanese family members to adopt a healthier lifestyle, to start making that change mentally and physically?
Mentality-wise, aging, let's talk about aging a little bit. A lot of people give up, and this goes back to, Halas, I'm 60 and I don't need to eat healthy. I live my life, whatever. Let me eat the way I want to eat. Or I don't need to impress anybody, or even this neediness of the elderly, this quick switch where they become very needy with their kids. They complain, they're entitled, and you owe me the phone calls, you owe me this behavior. I don't believe that. I think it's actually detrimental to think that your kids owe you. I think what you would want more so is to say, I want them to want to be around me. I want them to seek my advice or think I have something interesting to say, and not force them to give me this phone call or to sit with me. And I just think if you start seeing age as a huge factor, then if you start seeing it as a negative, then you stop your life at 45, 50. You start thinking, you know what, I have no kids, or I'm divorced right now, or whatever, and therefore it's the end of my life and it sucks. Instead of thinking, wait, hold on a second. Now it's 40 to 80 for me, let's say, hopefully 80, 90 years old. This is literally longer than my first half. So if in the first half I could have done this, what could I possibly do with the second half? People forget that when you were younger, you had to be interesting to be picked or attractive or to have friends. You needed to work on yourself, and you don't just make friends or get a job without being interesting. Why do you give up on that in your 50s? Why don't you learn a new form of interest? Travel, I don't know, read, start a podcast, do something, I don't know, whatever it is. They just lose the sense of, I need to find myself and be interesting again. They just think it's over. And that just messes with your mind, as an older person, and then the neediness comes about.
I think that's what you said. I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. I have certain family members who basically their life was dedicated to their children, and they have amazing maternal instincts, and they've based everything they've done off for the benefit of their children. But like you're saying, eventually what happens, your kids leave the house, they go to college, they get a job, they move on, they get their own family. And then it's a bit like, well, what am I supposed to do now? I spent, let's say 20, 30 years taking care of my kids, and there's nothing for me there. I feel like my life's purpose is now gone. So it's getting out of that mentality. It's getting out of that. And I call it like a permanent rut. Like, you know how you go through a rut for a few months? This is like the culmination of what you feel your worth was in life, to take care of your kids for 30 years, has now burst. The bubble has burst, and you're left with nothing. And it's very easy to say, just get motivated and try and pick up something and do something. But it's I want to get your take on how, like, getting out of that rut, that state of, because it might be subconscious. You might not even, it might not even be at the forefront of your thinking.
I think it's exactly the same way you do it if you're 25. What do you do when you get out of a toxic relationship and you forget what you like, you forget what you're good at, and you're so caught up with what he likes or what she liked, and you're just trying to find yourself again, and you're first depressive, you're a victim, and whatever, all of that, those feelings. How do you get back out there? They tell you, start by going for a walk, then go train, then talk to a friend, read, make yourself interesting, growth, travel by yourself. Why can't you do that when you're 45 or 50? Why is the same concept doesn't replicate there? It replicates. Maybe you're not going to do the same activities that you were doing when you were younger, but you need to be relevant. And the truth is, the less you take care of yourself when you're older, the more irrelevant you are. Older people become irrelevant. And this is the nature of how the system works. They keep the young generation sort of active. The older are on pensions, they're irrelevant, and then eventually okay? But if you start making yourself relevant, make yourself relevant to your kids, make yourself attractive again, just like you did when you were doing it with a man or with a woman, make yourself attractive to your kids. Let them come to you and say, my father or my mom is still so wise. Like, they read this, they taught me this. Versus, like a lot of us would see around us, our parents tend to say, let's say, the same stories, the same sort of repetitive humor, repetitive conversations, remarks, comments. I mean, that's not going to make you any more attractive to me or to anyone. Like, if you need to magnet friends, magnet business partners, that's not going to work for you. If you don't continuously work on yourself, you're not working on your mind, you're not working on anything, then you're going to go down that route where you become irrelevant. It's your choice, really. It's hard work, but it's a choice.
Yeah. It's a lot of hard work, because I think about it a bit existentially. Like, you get to that certain point and you might not even think it, but you're just, I wouldn't even call it living, you're just existing. You've gotten into the routine of not really doing much and just day by day existing. And to me, life isn't about that. Like you're saying, it's about challenging yourself. Like, one of the biggest fears is that I go through something like this. Let's say I have my career great and I retire. If I don't constantly challenge myself, especially with my personality, I'm afraid that I will fall into this rut of just existing, just doing the same thing every single day, talking to the same friends, and then waking up and rinse and repeat. And it's something that really keeps me up at night. And even though it's like fucking 40, 50 years away, just to let you know what a boomer I am with my thinking. It's something that really...
As you should.
Sorry.
I mean, as you should. I think it's okay to think of these things, and it's okay to assess how you would be and who you don't want to be. And we see this a lot. A lot of people are trying not to be their parents instead of trying to be their parents, right? Why is that? I'm sure that all parents are not wrong, or they didn't live a good life, but I think at some point they just decided, like, okay, now it's over for me and now it's about them. No, it's not over for you, and it's not about your kids. It's about both of you. And it could be about both of you. It doesn't make you selfish to still want to go after the things you want to go after. I know women here
100%.
that started, lost a husband, lost a kid, has another child, and decided to take up life coaching. So obviously, with her age, she has much more wisdom than the 21-year-old that wants to take up life coaching. So I think she has a head start. People tend to think, no, you don't have a head start because you're old. But no, in this kind of industry, yeah, you have a damn head start.
There are advantages.
Psychology, you have a head start. There are advantages to having experience. and you have the time. You don't need to raise anyone. You probably have money now. You have the time to pick a career if you want to pick a career at that age, right? But in most cases they don't want to. The easier option is to complain that they have nothing and they have no one. That's the easier option than actually picking up something from scratch. I've seen an 85-year-old woman who said she picked up training 3 years prior only. And I promise you, she's more ripped than I am or anybody that I know. She's crazy. She's huge on Instagram. She has like 600,000 followers. I was shocked.
Wow.
White hair, like old woman, saying every day, giving out motivational messages about how she started, why it's important to get healthy, why it's never too late. She's just brilliant to me. You know, this is what it's about. Yeah.
The example I always use for this is, I think I've used it a bunch of times on the podcast, but Colonel Sanders started KFC at the age of 60. I know we're talking about health, by the way. That wasn't a good example, but you see what I mean by that.
It's like everything. 100%.
Life isn't over after 40 or after 50. There's a lot to accomplish. And look, honestly, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. I'm not gonna lie. It was really interesting picking your brain. The one thing I would ask of you is the next time you come on, can we get your parrot as well? Because yeah.
I will.
I would love to talk to him. I'd love to pick his brain as well because he's in his own right a mini celebrity.
He's clever, man. Clever.
He seems clever as hell. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure, really. Thank you for having me.